Hey everybody, and welcome back to the board meeting. We're doing a top 10 list today, and this is one that I've been putting off for quite some time. This is my top 10 cooperative board games. I wanted to make this list a long time ago, but I kept being like, oh, I want to play this one though, because that might make that list. So I kept putting it off, and I was finally like, I'm never going to play all these cooperative games that I want to play, so I might as well make it now. Uh, Cooperative games are a genre of games that I've really started liking in the last couple of years. Right when I got into the hobby of board gaming, I wasn't huge on cooperative games. I didn't like dislike them or anything, but they were kind of like whatever games to me. Now they're some of my favorite games. And I don't really know why that is. Maybe I'm less competitive. I'm not really sure what's happened, but I enjoy winning more as a team now than winning as an individual for competitive board games. So yeah, cooperative games have definitely gone up for me. So whenever I see a new cooperative game, I'm definitely intrigued by them. It's a genre that I really enjoy lately. Uh, with that being said, I've got a couple caveats that I've made myself do for this, and the first one is uh, if I enjoy the game more solo than as a cooperative experience, I've kind of eliminated those games. And that took out two different games that might have made this list. One of them for sure. One of them being Marvel Champions, the card game. It's a game that I absolutely adore. I've got everything for that game, but I enjoy that game solo. I don't even like it as a multiplayer game. I like it simply as a solo game. The second game is Arkham Horror, the card game. I took that out. I enjoy it either as a solo game or as a two-player game only. Excuse me. I don't really like it more than that, and a lot of times I like playing it as a solo game and playing it two-handed, where I play two characters by myself. Uh, the second caveat is if they were just simply card games that you just hold in your hand and you're playing like that. I took those out because I wanted to make a board game list instead of kind of mixing card games and board games, and that only eliminated one game, and that is The Crew, which is a trick taking cooperative game that I really like. That would definitely have made this list, but kind of the reason why I did that is because that makes so many lists that I didn't want included on this one as well. With that being said, we should jump right into number 10 now. And number 10 is an app-driven game. This is Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition. This is a huge dungeon crawl game where you're going to be working cooperatively to try and eliminate whatever that scenario is. There's a bunch of different scenarios for this, and it takes place in the Cthulhu world. Now, a couple years ago, they kind of redid this game in a way, but with a new theme, and that is with Lord of the Rings: Journeys in Middle Earth. I am an absolute huge fan of Lord of the Rings, but I actually like Mansions of Madness much better. The only big difference between them is Mansion of Madness is a dice-driven game. When you're checking abilities and tests and stuff like that, you're going to be rolling dice. In Lord of the Rings, it's a card-driven sort of ability checks where you're going to be uh, drawing cards, and whatever cards you draw, that's how you determine if you're going to pass that ability check. For some reason, I like the dice-driven game rather than the card one. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's because in Lord of the Rings, you're constantly having to shuffle and stuff like that. It's an okay game, but I much prefer Mansions of Madness, and I really like the theme. So that's number 10, Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition. Going to number 9. Number 9 is what I figured was a children's game. This is Marvel United. I bought this game for my nephew, like not even this past Christmas, but the Christmas before, whenever Marvel United came out. And I kept hearing hype about it, and I was like, people keep talking about how simple it is, and it's got like the little chibi miniatures, which are cute and everything. And I thought it would be an okay game. It was still a game that I wanted to play, but I didn't think I was going to like it nearly as much as I did. And it is very simple. You are simply going to be playing a card from your hand, which the actions are very simple, like moving, hitting someone, saving a civilian, stuff like that. Very simple. you're going to be laying a card, and you're going to be taking those actions and the card that was played by your peer, your teammate, the previous turn. So you're going to take his actions plus your new actions on your card. And it's just a fun little game that I've really enjoyed with my nephew. And maybe that's one of the reasons why I like it so much, is that I can play it with my nephew. I can play it with my son. It's simple enough. It's fun enough that it's just a great game, in my opinion. And I just have he just has the base game. But this last Christmas, I actually got him the X-Men expansion. We haven't quite broken that out yet, but I'm very excited to do that one as well. Going to number 8. Number 8 is Thanos Rising Avengers Infinity War, which is this dice allocation game where you're going to be rolling these dice and placing those dice on certain members of your team, or using those dice to hit Thanos' villains to try and take them out. So you're going to be recruiting all these extra heroes onto your team, and those heroes are going to give you extra abilities and stuff like that, or you're going to be placing those dice on the villains and trying to take them out. And if once you've taken out so many villains, you win the game, or if all your heroes die, you lose the game. Very fun game. It's part of a system, the Rising system, which there are a ton of these games now. There is the Star Wars themed one, there's the Harry Potter one, there's a SpongeBob themed one, there is this Avengers themed one, and there's another one. I can't quite think of it off the top of my head right now. But this is my favorite one, and it's probably just because the theme of it really interested me, in Marvel one. Big Marvel fan. So let's go to number 7. Number 7 is a real-time game. This is Rush MD. I'm actually not a huge fan of real-time games for the most part, but some games kind of stick out, and this is one of them. And this is a hospital-themed game. This is a worker placement game, but your workers are actually these sand timers that you're going to be placing out and doing that specific job. And there are going to be 2 types of worker sand timers. There's going to be your nurses, and there's going to be your doctors. You can only place the doctors on certain spots. You can only place the nurses on certain spots. It's a very thematic game, and it's just utter chaos. You're working as a team, like grabbing each of the nurse, putting them on there. You're going to have to go get some hearts, some whatever. You're going to need organs. You're going to have to bring this patient into the surgery room. You're going to have to do a bunch of different things. You're going to have to diagnose them. It's, like I said, it's chaos, and it's fun chaos. I adore this game. It's very, very thematic to me. I enjoy it quite a lot. So yeah, number 7 was Rush MD. Going to number 6. Number 6 is also a worker placement game, but this is a dice worker placement game. This is Endangered. Now, Endangered, like I said, it's a dice worker placement game. You're going to be rolling your dice and then placing your dice onto specific actions to take those actions. What's interesting about this dice worker placement game is when you put dice there, someone else can go to that spot as well, but they actually have to place a higher number than you. So if I place a 4 down, the next number that is placed down, it has to be a 5 or a 6. What's extra interesting is you don't actually take your dice after that round. You take that dice once your turn starts. So your dice will stay there until it's your turn, which makes for another interesting thing, because if you happen to place a 6 down on a spot, no one can go to that spot until it is your turn and you take your dice off again. So it makes for some interesting decisions. The theme is you're trying to save these specific animals from going extinct. There are, I think it's lions and otters in the base game, and they've got some expansions coming out with other animals, and you're trying to get those animals to mate and spread, but at the same time there is these deforestation tiles that are spreading throughout, and they're killing the environment, plus they're killing some of your animals that are out on the board. And it's a hard game that just beats you back every chance it can get, and you're just trying to do your best to save these animals. So yeah, number 6 is Endangered. Going to number 5. Number 5 is a very quirky game. This is The Loop, and I actually have it right here. Like I said, it's a very quirky game where you're going to be trying to move around this board, defeating Dr. Foe, who's putting out all of these clones of himself. He's time traveling, but he's causing these time rifts to happen, and how these time rifts are put out, I think, is very interesting and makes for like drama in this game. There's like this tube that's in the middle of the board, and you're going to drop these time rifts cubes, and however many of his clones are, depends on, that will determine how many of these cubes you're dropping in. And you're just dropping them out, and there's these 3 funnels that are on this tube, and it'll send these cubes out into these different time areas. And if ever there's more than 3 of these rift cubes on a spot, there's a time rift, and you get so many of those, and you lose the game. Like I said, it's quirky, and it really works well in my opinion. It's got a lot of drama because every turn, even if you're like, oh, I'm only gonna have to drop 2 of these rift cubes into here, that's not so bad. But if they land in the same spot and it happens to be a bad spot, there's always drama in this game. That's one that I really enjoy. It's got a cute little artwork and theme too. I enjoy it quite substantially. Going to number 4. Number 4 is the biggest game on this list, and it's because it's the biggest game I've played, I think. Yeah, for sure. This is Gloomhaven. This is this hand management card game that's a dungeon crawl. You're going to be moving through these dungeons, making decisions which cards to play. You're going to pick 2 cards to play, and there's a top action and a bottom action. If you choose the top action of one card, you have to do the bottom action of the other card, which makes for this minutia that's really interesting to me. The reason why it's number 4, when possibly it might be my favorite game on this list, is because it's such a beast to take out and play. I don't actually play the board game very much anymore, but I play it on Steam a ton. If I counted my logged plays of Steam games, I probably played this game like 150 times last year just on Steam. It's one that me and my friends really enjoy. And that's why it's number 4 instead of number 1. It's just hard to get the actual board game to the table. But if you do, it's a very rewarding game. So number 4, Gloomhaven. Going to number 3. Number 3 is going to be no shock to anyone. This should probably be on everybody's cooperative game list, because this kind of blew up the genre. Number 3 is Pandemic. And I have played, I think, every game of Pandemic except for like the last Legacy Season 0. So I've played a ton of Pandemic. So this is, pick your poison for Pandemic. Whatever the theme is you want, pick that game. You're going to probably enjoy it. I enjoy Pandemic quite a bit. I mean, the original one is the viruses spreading across the world, and you're just trying to stop it, to cure these diseases. That's what the main theme is. But they've made so many different themes of this, so my favorite one is the Cthulhu-themed Pandemic, but everybody's going to have their favorite choice of this one. Mine happens to be the Cthulhu one. So going to number 2. Number 2 is one that competed with Pandemic for quite a while, and I think this one is my favorite, but they might flip-flop between weeks, actually. Number 2 is Horrified, and there's 2 different versions of Horrified now. There's the Horrified American Monsters, the newest one, and the Horrified Universal Monsters. I enjoy the American Monsters ones more because I think the monsters are more interesting. They're a little bit more complex. I would probably start, if you never played a Horrified game and you're new to board gaming in general, which cooperative games are great for new gamers as well, I would probably start with the original one. The original Universal Monsters Horrified is a little bit more straightforward for the monsters, where the American Monsters have a little bit more different things going on for the monsters. But I really enjoy both of these games. They're absolutely wonderful. Ones that get broken out quite a bit for this, and it's very comparable to Pandemic, and that's why it kind of flip-flops between which one I like more, because they're very comparable. You can definitely tell that Pandemic influenced Horrified quite a bit, and Pandemic actually influenced a lot of games, how a lot of cooperative games work. Pandemic is kind of the granddaddy for that. So going to number 1. Number 1 is one that kind of surprised me how much I have enjoyed it. This is my favorite cooperative game at the moment, and probably for a while, for the foreseeable future. This is Atlantis Rising 2nd Edition. I've never played the 1st edition, and I just started playing Atlantis Rising this last year. It is absolutely wonderful game where you're going to be placing out your workers. It's a worker placement game where you guys are going to be placing out your workers on the island of Atlantis. And Atlantis is sinking quite rapidly, actually more rapidly than you would like it to. But you're going to be trying to go to these spots and collect resources, which you're going to have to roll for, and then build this giant machine that will be used to escape the island. You're trying to do that before the island completely sinks. It's just a wonderful game. It's got a lot of tension, because on the lower parts of the island, the arms and legs of this island, you can go as far down as you would like to. But if you place your worker on the very bottom, that's going to be the best action. But after you place them, then you're going to be revealing cards that will sink the island. So if you're on the edge of the island and that card revealed sinks that part of the island, you don't get to take that action. So it's kind of like this push your luck mechanic, but very interesting. The reason why this one is number one, though, is I love the character powers in this game. They are very, very powerful characters. It kind of reminds me of how in the Voyages of Marco Polo, all of the characters just seem broken. They're so powerful. This one, they're not as powerful, but each character is very good, very powerful in their own unique way, which I love variable player powers, and this is the game with some of the best variable player powers, in my opinion. So that is my complete list. Atlantis Rising being my favorite current cooperative game. I'd love to hear from everybody what your favorite cooperative games are, maybe some that I didn't list that maybe you think should be on this list, and why you think so. But either way, if you did enjoy this video, make sure to like and subscribe to see more weekly content from me, Shane, at the board meeting in the future. Hope you all have an amazing day. Take care, everyone.